4 Xe graphics cores on the iGPU tile that should be a lot stronger than Intel's previous attempts at integrated graphics, and while it clearly isn't on the level of AMD's 3D V-cache chips, they have upped the level 2 cache per P-core by 50%, from 2 megs to 3 megs. Wow! There's also been some big changes to core turbo behavior. More on that now. You thought I was going to say later, didn't you? We've got 2 chips with us today. The Core Ultra 5 245K. That's a 6P core, 8E core chip that boosts to 5.2 and 4.6 gigahertz respectively. This is Intel's intended gamer sweet spot, at least for now. Then we've got the Core Ultra 9 285K. That gets 8P cores and double the E cores for a total of 24 cores. This one should be the productivity and also just do anything monster. It'll do 5.5 gigahertz on the P cores and 4.6 on the E cores. At least, it sort of will. Because the 285K has 5 different boost frequencies depending on what you're doing. It technically can actually turbo up to 5.7 gigahertz, but that's only going to be a couple select cores in lightly threaded workloads. All right, thanks Intel. As for the last CPU, the one we don't have today, it gets 8P cores, but only 12E cores and a slightly slower clock speed. So far, so interesting. But how's it going to play out? For the folks shopping today, we wanted to compare Intel's own last gen, AMD's Ryzen 9000, and for the folks gaming on the top chips from the last couple of generations, we included AMD's most popular X3D chips. A couple of important points though. We decided to roll the latest Windows 11 24H2, and our 96 and 9700X chips are tuned to the new 105-watt TDP that AMD unlocked last month. And finally, we didn't bother with the 5800X3D for productivity. That's a gaming chip. So, with that in mind, let's talk gaming performance. All of our tests were run at 1080p low to all but eliminate GPU bottlenecks and put as much pressure on these CPUs as possible. In Cities Skylines 2, not only do we see a decent improvement over 14th gen in both averages and 1% lows, but the 285K is beating everything in 1% lows. The only problem is, it's crushing our 245K as well. It turns out, in heavily multi-threaded games, this current generation gaming chip is looking decidedly last gen. It's not all bad news. We found some generational uplift in Total War Warhammer 3. It's not much, and also the 285K gets kind of stomped on by the 9700X in both averages and 1% lows, and also the 245K is near the bottom of the pack, and that's it. That's the positive news for gaming. As we always say, look to multiple sources to paint the most complete picture, but for the rest of our suite, the results are very disappointing. Shadow of the Tomb Raider has the 245K in second last place, beating the 14600K only in 1% lows, with the 285K not doing a whole lot better. Our X3D chips crush it in averages, and even the vilified 9000 series chips from AMD come out ahead. But AMD is far from Intel's only enemy here. Even Intel's own 14700K is decently ahead of our new Core Ultra 9 in average FPS. Fortunately, that's not the case in Rocket League, but the 285K is still losing to its predecessor. It seems that this game doesn't care much about 3D V-cache, but loves lots of cores and lots of threads, and is the only game we tested that placed the 9950X on top. That's bad news for our Core 5s, which trade places depending on whether you're looking at averages or 1% lows. Yikes. And in Red Dead Redemption, we see another case where not only is AMD beating Intel into the ground, but 14th gen is right alongside getting in some kicks where it can. This is a massacre, ladies and gentlemen, and F123 doesn't look a whole lot better. I mean, sure, they're beating last gen here, but not by a whole lot. And you know what else beats last gen? Our new commuter backpack. It's got all the tech-forward design you love from our OG backpack, but in a smaller, tighter package. Sign up for a notification at lmg.gg/commuter or at the link down below. Moving on to Counter-Strike 2. Both new chips are solidly in the bottom 3 with no improvements to write home about, and the 285K is down about 7% in averages from last gen. Cyberpunk sees a boost, but only to averages. It actually drops in 1% lows for our 285K. And as for the poor Core Ultra 5, it's at the bottom of the chart, behind a 2-year-old chip running in an 8-year-old socket. Truly, this is a sad day for gaming, and therefore the world. Or is it? We asked Intel to tell us their top 2 and bottom 2 games that showcased their new power efficiency gains, and we tested them ourselves with the 285K. And while it's clear you're going to see some huge swings in performance depending on what you play with these new chips, it is equally clear that you're going to see a reduction in power consumption across the board, something that Intel, unlike AMD, really needed to get under control with this generation. We'll touch a bit more on power and thermals later, but you can see here that yes, in Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail, we're losing 20% of our performance. But we're also dropping 40% of our power consumption. And Hitman? That was a similar story, with a 45% decrease in power for only a 13% loss in FPS. And those are the worst two. What about the best? In Civ 6, we've got a 35% power reduction while gaining almost 9% performance on the turn timer. And in F123, nearly 40% less power with 12% more average FPS. Don't get me wrong, guys. These are truly small slivers of silver on some very large cumulonimbus clouds, but they are there.
This just in. Intel has informed us that despite claims of APO, or application optimization, being enabled by default on Arrow Lake, it was in fact off on the motherboard they sent us for our review. We've rerun the tests and found about a 7% average frame rate increase in CS2, about 6.5% increase in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and a decrease of about 6% in Red Dead Redemption 2's 1% lows. The rest of our games only saw a 1 to 2% change, which could be attributed to run variance. Some of our productivity scores even went down slightly with the feature enabled. For the record, APO should be enabled by default on all boards, either in time for launch or shortly thereafter. I can't believe I'm still doing this character. It also appears that Windows 11 24H2 can have lower performance in games compared to other Windows versions. This is the version our testing used. But since 24H2 is publicly available, you may even be using it right now. We're standing by our results. If you want to learn more about the wide variety of performance you can expect depending on which versions of Windows you're running, check out Hardware Unboxed coverage, as they tested the 285K on multiple Windows versions and power modes, showing some pretty big changes in FPS. Your mileage may vary. We're still not impressed with Arrow Lake when it comes to gaming. Back to you, Linus.
I don't expect almost any gamer to look at this and think, I am very compelled to buy this product. But what I can hope is that, like we saw with AMD's Zen 1, that maybe this is the start of a long journey to recovery for Intel. Because if they can figure out what's going on with the games where they're getting absolutely dumpstered, productivity looks pretty okay. In Blender, there's a solid decrease in time taken to render for the 285K against the 14900K, and we get about a 10% improvement between the Core 5s as well. Unfortunately for Intel, the 9950X is still on top, but considering that the 245K beats both the 9700X and 9600X, I'm seeing this as a bright spot for Intel. A surprising one, given the lack of hyperthreading on this new generation. Compiling with Godot sees more improvements for Arrow Lake 2, with our 245K once again beating the AMD 9700X. It may only have 6 P-cores, but those E-cores are really starting to show their strength now that we see them do more heavy lifting in multi-threaded workloads. Intel has really invested in making these new Skymont E-cores beefy to the point where they're really more like underclocked Raptor Cove P-cores. In Handbrake, we see more improvements in AV1 encoding. The Core Ultra 9 sees a 22% uplift over last gen, with about a 15% uplift for the Core Ultra 5. Neither of them can crack the behemoth that is the 32-thread 9950X, but it is nice to see that the 245K isn't completely useless, trailing just behind the 9700X. X264 encoding is a similar story, with smaller gains over previous gen on both chips, but hey, now our 245K is beating the 9700X by a hair, and we see very similar results in Prime Sieve, with our 285K in second place and the 245K admirably beating its 9600X counterpart. Especially interesting in our results is Cinebench. The 285K finally lands on top of a chart in multi-core, and both Arrow Lake chips comfortably beat their 14th gen counterparts. The lack of P-core multithreading and the extra E-core clusters really hurt the Core Ultra 5, but at least in single core it puts on a respectable show, trailing just behind the 14900K. Just like in games though, the story here heavily depends on the workload, and we got just abysmal results in Puget Bench's Photoshop, with both new chips performing worse than last gen and straggling behind AMD by a wide margin. In Premiere, Intel is better than AMD, but this was already their fight to lose, and unfortunately, they managed it. Arrow Lake doesn't even manage to beat their last gen, 14th gen processors, so Pyrrhic victory? And 7-zip is another disappointing loss in both compression and decompression. Womp womp. Can we maybe find some more silver? How about AI? I mean, after all, unlike AMD's most recent desktop offerings, these new Intel chips have NPUs. Ooh, neural processing. And, at least when it comes to OpenVINO, we really see them shine with our 285K netting an 82% increase over the 14900K's CPU score in the same test. And since our 245K has the same NPU tile, it gets nearly the same score there as well, walloping the 14600K. Here we start to see what all the fuss is about with Intel's new iGPU as well. Those 4 Xe cores are putting in work with more than double the performance of last gen. Unfortunately, AMD CPUs don't support OpenVINO. They use Windows ML. And in that race, they beat Intel's CPU scores. However, in most cases on Intel, you won't be using Windows ML, so depending on your use case, these new NPUs might really matter to you. Because, I don't know, you can afford a brand new CPU and motherboard, but not a GPU? I don't know, we'll have to see how developers use these things. What could actually be a factor for you is power. While our 285K peaked at 250 watts to top the charts earlier, it only averaged 218, which is a 33-watt drop from the 14900K. To be clear, Intel is still clearly juicing their chips harder than AMD, but at least it's finally coming down, and it looks even better when we compare our 245K to the 14600K. Less power, higher score. You'll love to see it. It's just too bad that AMD twisted the knife on their most recent launch. It's also just not that clear of an improvement. We looked at Intel's best case for performance per watt in gaming earlier, but in our usual process for power and thermal testing, we use F123, and gen over gen, it's more of a mixed bag here. Yeah, they're using fewer watts on both SKUs, but surprisingly, they're running a few degrees hotter. So it looks like, unless they're using significantly less power, you can expect a pretty similar operating temperature. But hey, at least you can reuse your old cooler with the new LGA 1851 socket. Oh yeah, I only briefly mentioned this before. If you want these new chips, you're gonna need a new motherboard. Sick. Truly guys, I don't remember the last launch that left me this disappointed. I mean, there is a ton of cool stuff here to get excited about, like the potential prediction improvements thanks to removing SMT and the new knobs and dials for overclocking. Leaks have even popped up showing the 285K reaching over 350 watts for an alleged 8.5% performance gain. It's just too bad that the majority of you guys watching this video are probably never going to try your hand at overclocking beyond enabling XMP on your RAM anyway. Speaking of RAM, big changes there. We're getting CU DIMM support and a DDR5 only memory controller. Intel told us that these CPUs should see some decent gains when cranking up the speed to 8,000 megatransfers per second or greater, which sounds pretty cool, except that ours completely refused to do it, so we weren't able to verify their claims. Stay tuned though. Maybe now that both AMD and Intel have settled on DDR5, we'll have to test a wide range of memory speeds on both platforms in the not too distant future. Maybe an update or two in the meantime will fix Intel's issues in time for that. Which leaves us with one last kick in the teeth. When we started writing this review, the Ryzen 9 9950X was scarce and prices were high. But as of the weekend before the embargo lift, the 9950X went on sale for as low as $599. That didn't last long, and at the time of filming, they're already back to the $700 range, but it's a good way to get us started on the conversation about pricing. Today, you can buy a Core Ultra 9 285K for $589. You're also going to need a new motherboard that supports the new 1851 socket, and realistically, probably some new DDR5 memory if you want to try to get faster speeds out of it. The Ultra 7 265K, probably the chip that actually matters in this launch, and unfortunately the one we have zero benchmarks for, it costs almost $200 less at $394, and the Ultra 5 245K is $309. Considering that Arrow Lake isn't a drop-in replacement, it is really hard to get excited about this pricing when we look at the competition, especially when we consider that the Ryzen 7 9800X3D is rumored to be released next month. Intel's calling Arrow Lake a reset on the desktop roadmap, and I guess I'm just hoping that that's true, and that this is a Zen 1 moment. Like, that was a major change with some real improvements, but it wasn't that competitive. The real competitiveness came later with Zen 2 and especially Zen 3. So for Intel right now, unless you're super keen on an NPU on desktop, or you're one of those people who still thinks that AMD is Kirkland brand Intel, it's really hard for me to find a reason to buy these. If you do want to pick one up, we'll have it and all the CPUs that we tested linked in the description down below. As always, I'm your host, Linus Sebastian, and this is a segue to today's sponsor.
Squarespace! Have you ever checked out our beautiful website? We built it from the ground up with Squarespace. They make building a website easy with Squarespace Blueprint, a tool designed to give you great layouts and styling options so your site is optimized for every device. And with their Fluid Engine editor, you can easily customize those layouts thanks to a code-free drag and drop approach. They also have integrated and optimized SEO tools that help your site rank higher in search results. And if you plan on selling products, Squarespace accepts credit cards, PayPal, and even Apple Pay to give your customers flexibility. Start building your website today and use offer code LTT for 10% off at squarespace.com/LTT.
If you guys enjoyed this video, you might want to check out our review of the 7800X3D. Who knows what the 9800X3D will have in store for gamers, but boy, has this line been a very exciting one to watch.
What lies before us? Control Group created. Control Group created. Your presence
Boomer
is
with a
strong.
5. Jay, grab an extra
Army
blue
research
and green. Let me
complete.
know where to send it. See ya at ToyCon. Maybe see you guys at MegaCon, Halloween, and San Antonio t-shirts have arrived. 199
Planet item ready.
iDots.
Thank you.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'll be at
All power
the
to jump
Retro
drive.
Toy Con in South
What's on your
Carolina
mind? As you
mid-November.
wish.
So
There you go.
be pretty cool.
Gary with the $5. Congrats, Jay. Love blue, ordering green. Can't wait. Recently met James Arnold Taylor at a
For the
con and showed him
unity.
my copy of blue. What an awesome guy.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. You're gonna
Oh,
love
yeah.
it, man. You're gonna love it. James Arnold Taylor might have a part to play in some of
Doubt
this.
clouds our thoughts.
A lot of people involved with this, guys, so make sure you go out and support.
Is their demise
We got a lot of
truly
good
ordained?
opportunities going on.
Prenon Corpse with the $5. I'll be playing Black Ops 6 tonight. There better be a hardcore
Not the
mode
easy
so I
vengeance
can
we
team kill.
imagined. Is it time?
Search
Yeah,
and destroy.
Strike
I'm
what
I
lies
can't wait
before
to get back
us.
home and get everything set up. We got a lot.
We
I mean,
dare
we got
not stray
Black
from our
Ops 6
path.
dropping, Fortnite, OG Fortnite
Is
is
their
dropping
demise truly
in about 10
ordained?
days. Obviously, I got all the
Research
political stuff
complete.
going on.
Is their
It's gonna be
demise
busy
truly
as hell, man.
ordained?
For the next few
A
months, it's gonna be a busy
colonizable planet
time.
has been
I can't wait.
discovered.
I can't wait.
Yep.
We will not be
Thank you,
exiled
Prenon
again.
Corpse, for the $5. Birdman with a $5. Hey, you figs.
We
I
answer
was
the call.
I was the
Hell
Hogan
yeah.
shirt, mustache,
Created.
MAGA hat,
As you
iDot.
wish.
Love this fellowship. Thank you,
I
Geeks and
am the
Gamers.
unity
That was an awesome
servant.
shirt. That was an awesome
As
shirt.
you wish.
Accident
Without
Seller with
delay.
a $50. I don't
am
have
the
many friends
unity
either, but if you
servant.
don't think about it, I get used
As
to
you
it.
wish.
Watching Geeks and Gamers, etc. helps. FNT is
Without
great. I
delay.
love it. Love
No
the chaos.
mercy.
Thank
Thank
you.
I
you,
am the
Accident
unity
Seller.
servant.
Fresh Pony
the
with the
death.
$5. Hail, Jeremy, Beardo, and Jay. Already have blue and love the book.
We
Bought
answer the
green.
call.
Blue has a great message for adults
Harmony
also.
research
And I think
complete.
green will too.
Hell
Thank you, Fresh Pony.
Thank you,
As
You're
Fresh
gonna love it,
Pony.
man. You guys are gonna love it.
Dan Vask for his 16 months. Please recommend me things to
We
do
are
with one hand.
listening.
Oh my gosh.
I tried trimming some hedges with a machete.
A colonizable
I would,
planet
That's,
has
that's a
been
good activity to
discovered.
do with one
Since-
hand.
Since you already jerk off your boyfriend, Dan.
Oh my.
There's probably a few other options for you. So.
No mercy. Strike.
There you
Dan,
go.
you gotta watch the live stream from
No
last night,
mercy.
man. You gotta
That's
watch
incredible.
it. Yeah,
Incredible.
Betty Beep. That's
Betty Beep.
Betty Beep is Dan's #1 fan.
Ricotta.
We answer the call.
But
Is
all
it
right,
time?
Jay,
I am the unity
Achromatic
servant.
Chronicles Green. Tell the peeps.
It's in the pinned
about it.
comment. This is book 2 from
To
the
the death.
first one. And man, look at that.
Is
Holy
it
crap.
time?
Looks so
As
good.
you wish.
The campaign will run
Without
till
delay.
January, so you have time, early January, to pick it up. You're gonna love this.
I am the
130
unity
pages. There's also
servant.
coloring books. There's a couple stress balls in there because people were asking, so it's like whatever. And we've got a couple of pretty amazing
Harmony
covers that are
research
done.
complete.
So go check out the campaign over on the Rippercent website. Jeremy, I think he put it in the pinned comment. So I appreciate all the love, man. You're gonna love the story. This is just book 2 out of a 4-book series. So
has been discovered.
thank you guys so much.
We shall
And
overcome.
we will continue to talk about this and let you guys know about it. I will probably be
Is it
doing a Cobra
time?
Cast here a little bit
I
later
am the
today.
Unity's
A lot to
servant.
talk about in the world
As
of
you
politics,
wish.
and I'll be mentioning it over there as well.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Congratulations, Jay,
The
on the
anima
launch,
are restless.
and looking forward to seeing
Glory
people
to the
continue
unity.
to,
What
and I'll
lies
say this,
before
like,
us?
you guys definitely
Your
make
presence
your
is
orders.
strong.
Feel free to tag
Cry
Jay,
for
tag us on
mercy.
Twitter.
Yes.
You know,
The
I'm
anima
sure Jay
are
would love to see it,
restless.
and thank you
Another
for retweets
planet
and stuff
joins
like that.
the unity.
And if
You're
there's
the-
any issue with the
Glory
website,
to
it's a
unity.
brand new website. This isn't the
Cry for
Rippaverse
mercy.
website. It's the Rippersend
Our
website.
vengeance is yours.
Let Eric and his team know. They're, they will get right on it immediately. So
Absolutely. Beardo. What you
Yeah.
got going on?
I'm gonna be hanging out with Jay a little bit later. So me and Jay are gonna go do some activities here in San Antonio,
planet has
and
been
then
discovered.
I don't know, man. Just be
Your
going with the flow for
presence
the rest of the
strong.
weekend until we get
Commerce
to
upgrade
SpaceCon
complete.
Friday, Saturday. So just again, a huge shout out to everybody who showed up last night.
Desecrators
Last night was
assault
an
our world.
absolute blast, man. I
Glory to the
love these
unity.
meetups. And it's always kind of sad when it's over because you just kind of want the whole thing to just keep going on for a while. So shout out to the chat, the 199, all the fans. You guys are the best. And I can't wait to do it again.
Hell yeah. Appreciate you guys. Is there any more super chats coming in before
Yes,
we
there
close
is.
this out?
Yes, there is. Jesus Davila with a 199. Thank you, Jesus.
Planet item
The
ready.
Kaylee Scope with a $5. Drove 24 hours from LA to San Antonio, which is why I was late last night. Gonna be here all weekend. Hoping to meet up with you guys again before I drive back. Hell yeah.
Are you going to be at SpaceCon? We're going to be at
The
SpaceCon Friday
unity
and
has
Saturday.
fallen
I don't
silent on one of our
time yet.
planets.
I'll
shall
get those
overcome.
details. I think I know we have a panel Saturday. I don't know what we're doing Friday yet.
A colonizable
There's gonna
planet has
there's a
been
Riververse
discovered.
booth there that we're gonna be hanging out at. So looking forward to seeing you.
There you go. And Pre-Dog Corpse with a $1 super
Control
sticker.
group
Thank you, Pre-Dog
created.
Corpse. Brian Young with a $2. Jeremy, why are you geeking?
At least I'll wear matching socks.
That's gonna be the next thing.
We are exiles no longer.
Beardo's like on a
Your
Heath Ledger
presence is
Joker arc.
strong.
Like everybody
Control
hated him at
group
first.
created. Our will shall
And they
be
thought
done.
like all these bad things, and like, all right, eventually they're gonna have to just like, yeah, he's pretty decent. So
Yeah. A lot of compliments last night, man. A lot of compliments.
nah, he's decent,
Oh,
but he
you
still
love
did
to
that
see.
one gay movie, so he's gay, you know. So
What the fuck? I've never done a gay
Vengeance
movie,
is
okay?
yours.
I know, but that's the Heath Ledger arc. You
I
know?
know,
So
I know,
it's
I
like-
know.
All power to jump drive. Mining upgrade complete.
All right, guys, we appreciate it. Thank you for all the love, support. Go support Achromatic
The
Chronicles
anima are
Green.
restless.
Hold on, we got
in
one more.
the post. Okay.
Sorry.
A
Yes, shout out
colonizable
to Acromatic
planet has
Chronicles
been
Green. Sorry to interrupt
discovered.
that.
Oh, you're good.
It's all good.
Old Renaissance Boomer with the $5.
Victory is
Voting
at
today.
hand.
IDOTS, please get out and vote.
Cry
Trump
for
2024. If you love our country. Often said, most important vote of our lifetime. Really true this year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, guys. Well,
We
we'll
maintain
see you a
our
little bit
vigil.
later over on Cobra
Not the
Cast.
easy vengeance
Talk
we
about all the stuff going
imagined.
on in the world of politics.
Civilian
Other than
structure
that, you guys have a
complete.
great evening, and we will talk to all of you later. Support Achromatic Chronicles Green. Jay, I'll let you close us out.
Is their demise truly ordained?
Bye, everyone. Did Jeremy just leave?
We will not be exiled again. Glory
thank
to
you guys.
the unity.
Where'd they go?
Is it time?
Yeah, like just kind of
Control
that.
group
That was a
know.
bad softball pitch. I was kind of like,
No mercy.
I almost hit the
Harmony
red button. I
research
wasn't sure
complete.
what.
To the death.
You can't do that to me, man. You know how my brain works.
All right, Jay, close.
No mercy.
Have a great day, everyone. I'm hitting the red button. If they come back, I'm sorry. So have a great
Glory
daily
to
day.
the unity. A colonizable planet has been discovered. Cry for mercy. What's on your mind? Planet item ready. To the death. Mining upgrade complete.
It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for Halo. What's up, everybody? This is the Act Man here, and today The monument to all our sins has collapsed. 343 Industries is no more.
Whatever semblance of unity and protection they once provided is a phantom, a memory. With this franchise left unchecked, who will you turn to for protection?
Halo Studios. That's right, 343 has completely rebranded their company. Poof, gone into the Shadow Realm with you. Not only this, but they're also switching to Unreal Engine 5 for future Halo projects. Multiple Halo projects are in the works. And that old slip space engine that was covered in dust and technical debt and spaghetti code, they're leaving that behind too. During the Halo World Championship Series in this year of our Lord, Sergeant Johnson, 343 put out a 6.5-minute video right before the grand finals. And this video, well, it's starting to fix the apathy I've had towards this franchise. This video contained some of the most important updates the Halo franchise has had in the last 12 years. And we're going to talk about it all because I'm a little excited at the prospect for change. It's been a long time since I made a Halo video that wasn't just taking easy pot shots, just taking a dump on that travesty of a TV series, or revisiting Halo 5 because I want to make Halo videos, but I don't have much to talk about. So is this the start of a great new era for Halo? Are we finally heading out of the Dark Ages? Well, if you've been paying attention since 343 took over, you'll know there's still plenty of things to be skeptical about. To be honest, I always felt it was a strange decision to name the studio tasked with developing Halo after the main antagonist from the first and the third game. I get that the Monitor tried to protect Halo from Master Chief, so maybe that was their way of saying, we're gonna protect Halo. Unacceptable! But changing to Halo Studios, maybe that's their way of saying, hey guys, we're out of our villain arc. I think the new logo is a throwback to some old concept art Bungie had when they were creating the original Halo logo. But they should just use the old Halo logo. I mean, it's instantly recognizable and it's important to capitalize on brand recognition. I think even the most skeptical and pessimistic would agree that this is a good idea. Rebranding is a good idea, especially among the greater gaming audience. 343 Industries was a name associated with the decline of one of the greatest shooters. It was associated with disappointment, unfulfilled promises, with failing to meet expectations. It felt like with every new release, we'd get part of what we wanted, but it always seemed to come with a heavy price paid.
We made the really tough decision to delay shipping campaign co-op.
You can't keep getting away with it!
Now that old leadership has been replaced with new leadership, a rebrand makes a lot of sense. They're leaving their past behind, quite literally. They're leaving the slip space engine behind and their former identity. I think this rebrand has been a long time coming. They'll be able to distance themselves from previous failures and missteps and start fresh. There's still plenty of questions that we need to answer, and so I think we should take a look at the video itself, and I'll give you my thoughts and opinions on it. There's a lot to dive into.
What made Halo successful at the beginning? What is the legacy of Halo, and what's the soul that we want to bring forward, and what's the craft of making Halo games, and how do we set our studio up best to go deliver on that?
Interesting question. What made Halo successful? It's important to recognize that, again, this is a 6.5-minute video, so the things they say are vitally important. It's been cut and trimmed down to contain the best parts. But what made Halo successful is a question I feel like I've been trying to answer in my videos for a very long time. It's a combination of many things, but most vital among them is community. Community is what made Halo so successful. Multiplayer was envisioned as a fun party game to play with your friends, something that Nintendo would have made if they created a shooter. You know, over the course of 10 years, Bungie cultivated a very wide audience of gamers who, like Unishek says earlier, felt like they never ran out of things to do. And the Halo community is one of the most underrated. Whenever I go to these HCS events, everyone I meet is super cool. I never have a bad conversation with anybody. I get recognized. Everyone there is super passionate about Halo. And so what made Halo successful was that it appealed to so many different kinds of gamers. You think about all those videos on YouTube over the last 5 or so years that have made these videos about how Halo Infinite is so disappointing, how 343 killed Halo, yada yada yada. And I hope this new Halo Studios team recognizes that we have lost a lot of fans. But Halo still has that brand recognition, and if the cards are played right, we can get these fans back, and we can rebuild that community. Obviously, what they're thinking is a fresh start, new engine. They're hitting the reset button, which again has to make you a bit worried if they're just going to completely drop the infinite plotline and just forget about the endless. But this is, in a way, our first look at the next Halo game. It also sounds like they're looking to the past to understand how Halo became a cultural phenomenon, how it has the legacy it does.
When I first heard about Halo moving to Unreal Engine, my first thought was, this is going to be a really hard secret to keep.
And it was. There were a lot of rumors circulating, which are pretty much all confirmed now, that 343 was swapping to Unreal, and now it's fully confirmed, so we can talk about it.
Before, we really had to split our focus in thinking about building an engine, supporting it, being really kind of a tech company and a studio at the same time.
And I think if you're looking for the simplest explanation for why Halo has faced the issues it has under 343, that was it. Bungie kept much of their staff after each new release, so they had a core unit of veterans who understood the Blam engine, meaning there likely wasn't massive amounts of time spent getting new developers to learn it, right? We used to have a 3-year cycle with Halo games, and now it's like 3 years since Infinite came out. This is the first we've heard of the next Halo game. The engine is what's been holding it back, as well as some of the baffling creative decisions. But because of Microsoft's contracting hiring policies, they've shed so much talent, and it's created this spaghetti code with Infinite that is just too much to work on. It's just too convoluted. I'm pretty sure Slipspace and the Blam engine, though they're pretty much the same, they were proprietary. So every new employee who came on had to learn that engine if they hadn't already worked on it before, whereas Unreal is much more widely used across the gaming industry. So you have a much better chance of getting people on board who are already familiar that don't need to be trained over the course of 6 months or whatever. It's all code. It's all code, ones and zeros at the end of the day.
Since we've made the change to shift to UE, we can bring Halo forward in ways that people have never seen before while still being true to what Halo is.
I sure hope so. Like I said, there's been some insane, incomprehensible creative decisions made over the years, and that is something that worries me, is mistakes being repeated. Slipspace was treated as the cure for all their problems, and they spent so much time working on it, and in the end, it didn't end up working. Now, I can't predict the future, but we're hearing some of the same talking points as they discuss the benefits of swapping to UE. And here's the thing, a new engine can revitalize the team, you know? It can make it easier to bring new people on board, but it's not an instant cure for one of the other main problems Halo has faced. Without the proper creative direction, Halo's going to suffer the same issues it did before. It doesn't matter how nice your tools are if you're still building the same house on the same faulty foundation.
Our new studio art director, Chris, came to me and said, hey, I have this crazy idea.
He said, hey, there's this thing called Project Foundry that I want to do. Let's make it happen.
Project Foundry, which I think is a CE remake, by the way. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
It's not a game, it's a research project for our studio so we can prepare ourselves for the next steps of making Halo games.
Oh my God!
Ooh, ooh, look at that waterfall. Sexy. Flood, boys, flood! Can you believe it? Can you fucking believe it? My God, we might actually see an M rating in a Halo game.
I don't believe it!
This is what has been missing. I think this is a great mindset to have when going into this new project. They're creating a link between the lore of the universe and the work they'll be doing, right? This is how the Forerunners built the Halo rings, and this is how we are going to build Halo games. There's also been some rumors circulating that they're working on a Halo CE remake. And I mean, makes sense. Remakes are pretty hot right now. That's all the horror genre is. It's just remakes. Dead Space, Resident Evil 4, Silent Hill 2. And let's face it, treading familiar ground is probably the right way to start off this new era of Halo, if we're going to start it off on the right foot. Because it means they don't have to figure out and worry about too many creative decisions. Most of the creative work has already been done. Now all they have to do is expand on it. And you know what this means? It means we might actually see the fucking plasma rifle in a Halo game. Imagine. Well, what about dual wielding, huh? Playable elite? Maybe that's on the table. Maybe we can start having the playable elite conversation, boys. Invasion? I'm just spitballing, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. I understand the logic that they have of wanting to do like a CE remake, treading familiar ground so they can understand this engine, how they're going to make Halo within it, and establish a repertoire so that their first new project under this new brand, they can get a W. Then after proving themselves and gaining some confidence, they can start getting more ambitious. I would love to see a CE remake if it means we can get more campaign levels, more multiplayer maps, weapons, vehicles. There's so much unutilized creative potential. All the Halo Wars 2 vehicles, man. I mean, it's time to use some of those, man. Now, people might point out that CE Anniversary was a remake, so why do another? But it wasn't a remake. It was the exact same game with a visual overhaul and some new additional lore and cutscenes. When I think remake, I'm thinking like Resident Evil 4, Dead Space, where yes, they're going to hit some familiar beats, but there's room to expand and add on to that original vision.
The original Halo franchise was a graphic showcase. It was best in class. That's what Halo was when it first was released, and that's what Halo needs to be again.
Absolutely. 100% agree. Halo has always pushed the technical boundaries of visuals, graphics, and fidelity. If we ignore the faces of the prophets in Halo 2, we forgot about that. Also, Lord Hood in Halo 3 didn't look too great either, but outside of that, Halo was always pushing the boundaries of console gaming and bringing it to the next level, you know? Remember that story of Hideo Kojima when he first saw Halo 3 gameplay and he watched the plants move and react with the player as they walked into him, and he nodded his head before walking off. Almost like that impression he got from Halo was that he needed to do better work. Also, original art style. We got original art style, and that's Mark 5. That's CE cheap right there. Also, it's nice to see biome variety highlighted, as that was a huge issue with Infinite's campaign. It's like it was just robotic Forerunner corridors, banished encampments, and Pacific Northwest vibe. That's pretty much all it was. And if you look at Combat Evolved, each level was radically different in style, tone, backdrop, and there's endless amounts of creative locations you can create because it's a Halo ring. They're artificially made. That cave is not a natural formation. Someone built it, so it must lead somewhere. And also, it's probably a tough decision to make because you have to confront the sunk cost fallacy when you're switching to a new engine, right? You can't just copy and paste all your previous work and add it into a different engine. I'm not a game developer, so I don't know how it works exactly, but from my understanding, so they're basically going to be starting from scratch. And that was probably a tough decision to make on the back end, but after so many mistakes, it was time for a fresh start.
And then our third biome was the Blightlands, which is...
That's just fucking gorgeous. That's just beautiful.
I wanted to give our team the opportunity to really express an alien world, a really alien world, taking something way further than they may have actually done in previous Halo games.
Yeah, I totally agree. Right there, what I just saw, it looked like Halo Wars, and Halo Wars felt different. It looked different than a lot of the flood-themed levels. You know, we had High Charity, we had, yeah, pretty much just High Charity, like the only flood-infested place. But Halo Wars was much more open, and so seeing how the flood infects a wide landscape is really interesting. How they infest the environment itself is something we really haven't seen too much of, at least in the main games.
What's impressed me about watching the Halo team work in Unreal is how beautiful everything looks, how incredible the environments look. I don't think we've seen anything quite like it in Unreal Engine before.
And it does look great. It does look great. But you know what also looks great? That first initial reveal trailer for Halo Infinite. And then we saw what the campaign looked like in 2020, and they were like, yeah, this needs another year. It needs more than a year. So it's easy to be hyped because we haven't had much to be hyped about with Halo recently. But it's also important to, you know, take a step back from the hype and not make the same mistakes, not rush to judgment that this is all going to go perfect.
Fortunately, we have a studio that's really passionate about Halo, about the look and the feel, and you know, I think there's a lot of hunger to really collaborate, to move forward together.
Hunger is a good word. They're hungry to prove themselves. A passion for Halo, which again is in stark contrast to some previous interviews we've heard from, where they talk about the Halo TV series, and it's like, we didn't look at the games, or, you know, we wanted to hire people to work on Halo that didn't like Halo. It's a complete 180 in terms of what they're saying. But again, these are all just words and some fancy screenshots. So
It is great to be part of a team that's growing because you can kind of see that force multiplied as people come in and take on challenges and you can do more.
I'm getting the vibe that everyone is optimistic, hungry, passionate. These are things you want with your development team. The vibe is right. I'm getting good vibes.
It feels like a new beginning for the studio in a lot of ways, and I think that's pretty rare.
And that this also comes across as like promotional material for people who are looking for a job in the game industry. Like, hey, we're getting our shit figured out, you know? We're hungry, we're passionate, we love Halo, and we're looking for people like you.
And I think we arrive now at a point where you see the beginnings of people to start to believe in the process.
Start to believe in the process. I feel like there must have been so much frustration behind the scenes because of the cards they were dealt, right? They had to work on slip space and they had to work within the constraints of that. It must feel very liberating knowing that they're swapping to UE and they have this like newfound freedom. It'd be like me making videos on Windows Movie Maker and then getting Premiere Pro and feeling like, oh my God, the videos I can make. You know? So I totally get this vibe. But also, you can't expect the studio to come out and be like, yep, we fucked up a whole bunch before. This is a new chapter. Man, we really screwed things over. No Slayer playlist at launch. Who the fuck came up? Like, they can't come out and say that stuff directly. But they're kind of indirectly addressing some of those sentiments and trying to spark that fire.
Set a fire in your heart, Spartan.
Halo Infinite was the last remnants of how we made Halo games in the past. That was our recipe. And what we are doing right now, we're changing the recipe.
That new Chief design. That's a cool animation. I wonder if my boy Will Pixel Flare did that. So yeah, Pierre just said something I think is really telling. That's how we used to make Halo games, and we're changing the recipe. And that is exactly what I want to hear. But you know, at the end of the day, I just want to see Halo succeed, and like, I want it to see it get 250,000 concurrent players on Steam when a new Halo game comes out, and I want to see it retain a large chunk of that population. I want to see the series reach its full potential because I'm such a huge fucking fan. And if swapping engines and rebranding is what it takes, then I'm all on board for that. Sure, you know, give it a try, start fresh. It sounds like they have a much better understanding of the creative direction they should be taking this franchise in. However, and this is a big however, I also said the same thing prior to Halo Infinite coming out. And I hope this is it. I hope this is it this time. You know, don't give me false hope, please.
Or make a girl a promise. If you know you can't.
Still, nothing has been proven yet. They showed off some great visuals and they said all the sweet nothings I want to hear whispered in my ear, but it's too early to say, we're back, boys. Microsoft still needs to get their head out of their ass and fix their stupid dogshit contracting work policies so they can retain that top tier talent instead of letting them go work elsewhere. Be nice to the goose. They're breeding a goose to lay golden eggs. That's what they're trying to do, so feed it right. Overall, I'd say I'm feeling pretty positive of the direction this franchise is going in. I eagerly await the next update on their next project. Fingers crossed, lads. Halo may have fallen, but the ladder is still there, and we can still climb it. But what do you think? Are you excited or skeptical for this new direction of Halo? What's one thing you want to see return in whatever the next main Halo game is? Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the Actman for more awesome content. All right, everyone, that's all I got for today. This is the Actman signing out. Peace.
I don't know how I've never seen a GameRanks video before. I love this. These guys have 8 million subs. I've never seen this before. I feel like a fucking idiot.
Dishonored, 88%.
Damn.
Batman.
Man, what the fuck?
City, 94. Mass Effect 2, 96%. What do these games have in common? It's not just great Metacritic scores. They're all legendary single-player games made by some of the best developers of their generation. Want to know what else they have in common? Redfall, 56%. Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, 60%.
Damn,
Anthem,
I'm surprised it's that high.
59%. All the most recent games from their respective developers, all critical and commercial flops, and all live service games. So what happened? how could respected names like Arcane Austin, Rocksteady, and BioWare release games this reviled? Hi folks, it's Falcon, and in a word, it's live services. Instead of focusing on the single-player games they were so good at, these developers were led astray by the promise of guaranteed profit. But as
wasn't the campaign for Suicide Squad garbage too?
Figured out in 2024, there are no guarantees in the games industry. Right now, it seems like all a developer can do is stick to what they're good at and hope for the best. But these guys didn't do that. Instead, they decided to follow a dangerous trend that's killing single-player games, and they're paying for it. And don't get us wrong, at Game Ranks we are definitely frustrated and pissed off at the current state of the industry. But it's not like we celebrate gleefully once great studio's reputation ends up in the dumps.
I do, because it's another point on the graph that shows that consumer unfriendly practices are not profitable. It's another example of what happens whenever you go away from what your audience wants and you fail because of it. It is a good thing. Thank God it happened. What if the opposite had happened? Then we get more of this bullshit.
It sucks. I loved BioWare, and it feels like there has been a pretty fair amount of these types of videos where we're talking about what's wrong with the game. And yeah, it's easy rage bait, but I don't take joy in tearing stuff.
It's bad. It's bad. That's the problem. It's bad. Like, now, if it was good, people wouldn't be talking about it like this, but they're not. But it's not, so they are. Like, the game is bad. It's that simple. Like, if you put out a game like Skull and Bones that has less innovation than Black Flag that came out over 10 years ago, Assassin's Creed with shipboarding, like, you're making a piece of shit. You're making a piece of shit, and that's it. Like, there's no, oh, but it's rage baiting. You want to know what's rage baiting? Playing a game that's worse than a game that came out 10 years ago.
Control group created.
That's rage bait. $70 to eat a dick.
Down. We don't take joy wallowing in the filth.
I do.
Yes, it's sometimes funny to point and laugh, but we are losing great game creators, and I just wish
it's always the way it is. Like every year, and it's not like humans make this worse, right? But like there are thousands and probably millions of extinct species of animals that we will never know about because they went extinct 700 million years ago and we have no idea. That's it. Like, this is a natural occurrence. If you go back to the 90s, there are a lot of studios, like remember Rare? They're not around that much anymore, are they? Because things fucking change. Sega's not making Genesis anymore. They're not making console anymore.
Without delay.
Have to be that way. There's a specter haunting the games industry, a specter called the live service. It's infected the minds of every corporate suit and bean counter. And can you really blame them? They've seen runaway success with games like Fortnite, which is still absurdly popular and makes money hand over fist. And the guys at the top.
You want to know why Fortnite's popular? It's because it's good. It's good. That's the reason why. You show me a game that makes money, I'll show you a good game.
Companies, they all want a slice of that pie. It doesn't matter if it makes sense. They see the other guy's number go up, so they want their number to go up.
Yeah, or they get fired.
The problem is, all these guys assumed that the pie was infinite, that you'd be able to cut off as many slices as you wanted forever, and it wasn't. There are 8 slices of the industry profits pie.
Well, I feel like this is 8 slices of subscriptions, right? You got Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, you got a WoW subscription, Crunchyroll, let's see, Disney Plus, and you got Game Pass. Like, bro, there ain't no more room. There's no more room for another motherfucking battle pass.
What's on your mind? Without delay.
There's too much. The pie already is gone.
I am the Unity's servant.
Fortnite, GTA Online, Genshin Impact, and Fortnite is another one. Also Fortnite 2. Also, I'm gonna mention Fortnite one more time to even that out to 6 pieces of the pie. Everybody else trying to get those 2 pieces. Let's just call them the scraps for now. All these guys didn't account for how that was going to shake out, though. They just saw the big.
I think that the problem is that the issue is that a lot of these companies are making decisions that sound good inside of a vacuum and in an abstract, but they don't realize that they exist inside of an economy where people have so many competing devices and competing types of media for their attention. And all of those medias also have their own payment structure that you have to make a decision dynamically on what to support and what not to support. That's where the real issue comes from. That's the real problem.
Sales of money going to Epic and Rockstar.
Because if it was only one game company doing this, then it would be fine. But the reality is that that's why that everybody's doing it.
What's on your mind?
It sounds good if you don't think about it.
I am the Unity's servant.
On Blizzard, and they're like, yeah, I like money. Hey, people who are doing something that works, stop and try to do what those guys are doing, even though you don't know how to do it. I mean, at the
and
end
also, I think again, like I'm gonna go back to the game quality. People are buying the Fortnite, or not Fortnite, the Helldivers Battle Pass. They bought that. Everybody bought that. People love that. You know why? Because the game was good. That's it. Oh, well, we're not getting people to play our game. Well, then make a good game.
Unveiled by our scryers.
Oh, well, I
Scryer
mean,
visions have revealed
this
an
is, it's like
unexpected
weight
bonus.
loss.
Exotics
Well, I
have
mean,
been
I
unveiled by our scryers.
look, I just can't seem to
Scryer
lose
visions
weight.
have revealed an
Well, what are you
unexpected
doing? You
bonus.
eating Cheetos all day?
Exotics have been
Whoa.
unveiled by our scryers.
Yeah?
Presence is strong.
Why don't you go out and exercise? Well, I mean,
Without delay.
look,
The
look,
anima are restless.
look.
Hostility
We
research
gotta think of
complete.
something. We gotta think about it. Yeah. There's always a reason.
Today, the purpose of a business is to generate a profit, after all, especially if you're a publicly traded company, and a lot of these companies are.
Yeah.
The dirty little secret of the games industry is that success is never guaranteed, though, and there's no simple formula for making the profit. There's just too many random factors that come into play, whether a game is successful or not.
It's true, but it's also not. There's a formula that makes a game more successful more often.
Screw that. I'll set all the corporate executives who clearly don't understand, let alone love
There's a
video
trend.
games. In their minds, the real secret to success is to find somebody who's successful and follow them around. Which on an individual basis, like it's good to learn from people, but when you're a business person, you're just ripping somebody else off. It doesn't quite work the same. It doesn't necessarily drop you gently into success land. And that's just
100% does. It's 100% does. Like, so Fortnite Fortnite originally was a PvE game. You know, want to know what the battle royale was? They said they looked at PUBG. They said, "Holy fuck!" They saw H1Z1 and they said, "God damn." You know what Genshin was like? Damn, this Breath of the Wild game is good. What if we just took the game and we put it in our game and we called it something different? We put a few extra characters in it and then have people pay money for it. No, always steal shit. That's the best way to do it. Amateurs imitate, professionals steal. That's the way it is. Every one of these fucking games is stolen. Absolutely. And the foundation of it is built off of something else.
As you wish.
A lot of companies did or tried
Stealing's
to do.
easier?
EA, Warner Brothers, Activision, Bethesda, Square Enix. They might not have mandated it, but they all wanted their game developer studios to, you know, build some money printing presses. Oh, sorry, I mean...
Everybody wants to make Fortnite, but nobody wants to make a game as good as Fortnite. They don't want it, like, because Fortnite is so dynamic.
Without delay.
Like, everybody's like, well, why can't we just get the money that it's like people will say, like, streamers say this with like somebody like Kai, right? Like they say, oh man, I wish I had the viewers or something that like Kai does. Well, what are you doing? Well, today I logged on whenever I felt like it and I played video games for 3 hours and I talked to my friend in Discord. Damn, bro, and you're telling me people didn't tune in to watch that? Oh man, well, hey, it's all about luck, and I guess you just got unlucky. Oh, bro. Oh, yeah, you just weren't picked, man. Oh, jeez.
Is yours.
Luck of the draw.
Created.
Endless multiplayer elements and lots of microtransactions, which I can't imagine that ever getting old. The important thing to keep in mind is that the games industry wasn't immediately reacting to Fortnite's success. Almost all of these flops were in development well before Fortnite became the biggest thing in town. Live service was a direction the industry was already going in. Everybody wanted that big hit. And when games like Fortnite and GTA Online started dominating the space and publishers started posting record profits, that really accelerated people's plans. To anyone in the know, it sounds insane for a company like Arcane Austin, most famous for their work on Prey, still underrated to this day, to do that. Like Bethesda going, hey, Arcane Austin.
Redfall didn't play well.
Undeniable. Item complete.
They had shit clipping through walls.
Exotics have been unveiled by our scryers.
It was bad.
Presence is strong. Exotics have
If
been
this was a single player game, it would be worse.
Exotics have been unveiled by our
You want to talk about like, oh, it's live service. It's not live service. It's the problem. It's a bad game.
Have been unveiled by our scryers.
It's a bad game that doesn't work.
We own you, and what we want from you is live service games.
He was mentioning Prey, though. He was mentioning Prey as a way to build up the quality of Arcane Austin. But the reality is that Arcane Austin, it's not what have you done, it's what have you done lately. And lately, Arcane Austin shit the bed with Redfall.
Harmony research complete.
That's the way it is. And I guarantee you that if you had your money in your 401k invested into a game like Redfall, and you had a chance to vote, do we cut them loose or keep them on the line? Every single person is going to be cutting them loose.
Your presence is strong.
It's not even a question. Arcane Austin is good at making single-player games, not live service game. I believe this is his point. But why can't they can't even get the bugs out of the game.
Your presence is strong. As you wish.
They can't get the bugs out of the game. These are bugs that could happen in a single-player game too.
We'll consider it. We answer
And
the call.
you clearly make immersive sims and do it in a highly specific way that is both critically and commercially well received. And then Microsoft buys them, and Redfall just tanks hard because it's Redfall. And that's the first thing that Microsoft observes. I mean, this is a studio that really knew single-player games. People got jobs at Arcane Austin because they liked that kind of game. Because Arcane Austin was famous for it. So everybody at Arcane Austin was really enthusiastic about that kind of game. And yet, in 2018, the same year Fortnite was really taking off, Arcane started work on Redfall, an online-only open-world cooperative shooter. It's easy to just point at ZeniMax or Bethesda and say they forced Arcane to make a bad game. And for the most part, I am going to say that that is most of the problem, particularly with this one. That being said, devs are perfect.
You spend 5 years come up with a piece of shit. At some point, you got to stop blaming other people.
All power to jump drive.
5 years. Get the fuck out of here.
Vengeance is yours. Is it time?
Like, what are we talking about? Oh, Xbox made us release it early.
I am the Unity's servant. The anima are restless.
Why is that a problem?
Is
Like,
it
what? So
time
if you
to
didn't
the
know
dead?
what the deadline was,
Vengeance is
like, what do you think the
yours.
odds are that they didn't know what the
We'll
deadline
consider
was? That it was
What's
just
on
a
your
big
mind?
surprise.
Control group created.
Capable of making bad decisions on their own. The orders don't always come from the top. When
Is
ZeniMax
scope creep? Yeah, you know what scope creep is? A failure in management. I hate how a lot of these game studios and like the
Is it
gaming
time?
community is so
As you
allergic
wish.
to accountability.
Our vengeance is yours.
They knew what the fucking deadline
We'll
was.
consider it.
They knew what they had to make. They knew
Your
what they needed
presence
to
is
do.
strong.
They signed up
We
to do
answer
it.
the call.
They didn't do it. So if you
Control
can't handle the
group
scope
created.
creep and you can't
Your
figure it
presence
out,
is strong.
I don't want to fucking hear
Harmony
about it.
research complete.
Like, this
We
is your
answer the
fault.
call.
You set yourself up to fail. You set the
Last
game up
chance
to be this
to
way. You,
surrender.
like, Phil's
Any
probably
last
not sitting in
words?
there telling them you need to
Is
have
it
this system
time?
and that system. You decided this. You went with this.
wanted more microtransactions, Doom Eternal did it by shuffling all that stuff off to the multiplayer mode. The game still had a robust single-player component, though. And really, regardless of whose fault it is, Arcane making Redfall proved to be a terrible idea. Right from the start, the project lacked direction and enthusiasm for pretty much everybody involved. And according to reports, no one at Arcane wanted to make it. And you can just see that in the buggy, half-baked final product. Sources said the whole project was such a boondoggle that many in the company secretly hoped Microsoft would simply cancel the game after the acquisition. And as much as
what a joke.
No mercy. The anima are restless. Civilian structure complete. The Unities will be done. At last.
I'm about to go in.
Civilian structure complete.
I'm so sick of this shit. This reminds me a lot of whenever streamers will do a sponsored stream and act like during it they're in detention.
Your presence is strong.
You're being paid to make a product. If you don't like the product you're making, then why don't you make it better and find a way to like it? Why is this Microsoft's fault because you don't like making the product this way?
The Unity has fallen silent on one of our planets.
What the fuck are you doing? Or quit. Yeah, whose idea was it? Yeah, this is find a way. It's your fucking job. Figure it out. Like, you're not always going to have a situation where every single little thing is going to be exactly the way that you want it to be.
Civilian structure complete. Our vengeance is yours.
Like, that's the facts. Like, I'll tell you this, right?
What's on your mind?
There are a lot of situations that I have been in the past 2 years that I did not want to be in. But the most poisonous thing that you can possibly do is to act like it.
Vengeance is yours. Cry for mercy.
It's so bad. It's just the worst mindset to have. Like, it's...
People used to praise Microsoft's hands-on approach with their studios. They probably should have canceled that game. I think it probably would have been better for everybody because they would have stopped sinking money into it and Arcane Austin would still exist. I mean, not that it really matters anyway, because it's estimated that around 70% of the staff that worked on Prey left the studio by the time Redfall actually shipped. The project was so disheartening to the people who wanted to
ship of Theseus
at Arcane that they just quit rather than deal with it. Like, they're obviously talented people. It'll be harder for them to bounce back somewhere else, but it's not like they're no talent hacks. They will be able to find work. So why not leave? If you're going to be stuck working on something that just kills your will to wake up every day, why stay there? And, you know, because of this, Arcane Austin also struggled to fill empty positions because I don't know how you get people who are like really excited about working in live service games at Arcane Austin, the developer famous for immersive sims. Like, if you say to me, there's a position open at Arcane Austin, I'm like, oh, really? Yeah, they're making a live service game. Oh, well, I'm not going to apply for that. That's how my brain would work if I were them. And live service games are the problem, but they're not the full problem.
I'm not sure if I completely agree with that or not. I think it depends on what the game is, right? And it's like a lot of game studios make, like, a great game studio will go off and do something different, and it will be great. Like, for example, Capcom went and made Dragon's Dogma. From Software made Demon Souls. That was a big deal. Dark Souls, big deal. Big departure. Armored Core 6, a return, but still a departure from what they had been doing for the better part of 10 years.
Possible for a live service game to be good. Helldivers 2 shows us that in spades.
Yeah.
The problem here is forcing single-player devs who are not interested or straight up don't know how to make live service games. That is, I mean, that's the problem. That's the biggest, most glaring problem, I think, even more so than the idea that a live service game exists.
I see what his point is. I understand what he's trying to say, but I don't completely agree with it. Because Redfall did not function even as a game on a foundational level.
The Unity agrees.
So, like,
the anima are restless.
You can make, like, there's two arguments, right? There's, like, a lack of quality in style and design, and then there's a lack of quality in functionality. A lack of quality and functionality is indefensible. It is low-quality garbage regardless. Now, style and design is subjective. Oh, I think this game is boring. Well, I don't. Okay, well, then some people are going to play it, some people aren't. But Redfall did not function.
No type of game is automatically good or bad. But it is automatically bad to try to get somebody who doesn't know what they're doing or doesn't want to do something to try to do the thing, because that thing
I'm going to have to say, though, like, while I still don't think that I don't... This is going to sound confusing, right? But, like, this is a two wrong situation. Microsoft also fucked up, and I don't want to make it seem like this guy is totally wrong, because he's right. Microsoft should not have had them do this. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to do it. You're making them do it, and it's bad. Now, yes, it's their fault, but they failed, but you put them in the position to fail.
Gonna suck. Like, you'd run into this issue with genre changes anyway. Like, imagine taking the Battlefield team at DICE and saying, hey, make Baldur's Gate 4, please. It would probably be a disaster because, I mean, these are multiplayer shooter guys, not systematic RPG guys. The drive and the knowledge just isn't there. And let's even say that they're excited about it. That could be a project that easily beats them down because they got to learn everything over again. And what we've
Blizzard never made an FPS before Overwatch. Overwatch was crazy good. It was on release. Overwatch was so good.
Your presence is strong.
What I learned in the past few years is that making live service games is hard. Even developers who have successfully done it, like Bungie, they struggle to remain profitable. Destiny 2 is a game characterized by crisis. It's a game that always seems like it's on the verge of completely breaking down. There are times when things are great.
I feel like I missed the boat on Destiny.
And then there's times when
I wish I had played it on release.
And no one is happy with Destiny 2. Like with Lightfall. I mean, in general, Destiny 2's been a success, but you never know it from the community at times. The problem with live service games is they require a constant stream of updates to stay afloat. And that means they need a constant stream of labor. And that means you're never done with them. Ever. And it's a delicate balance. You have to be satisfying, but not quite satisfying enough to be done. Like, I will go ahead and say this. That's not automatically bad. Generally, it turns out bad, but I'll give a point to Helldivers 2. They get it right. It's worth continuing to play it on an ongoing basis because it is just satisfying enough to not be satisfying, but be satisfying. I know that sounds ridiculous, but still.
I'll give you my example of that. Whenever I was playing in, because what he's saying is like, I see what he's trying to say, but it's so hard to explain. What he's saying is that you have to keep the game in a constant state of imbalance, but rotate the imbalance regularly to keep things fresh. And I remember in Nighthold, with playing my warrior in Nighthold, I remember I was doing Croesus. He's the big guy in the water in Nighthold on Mythic. And I got depression whenever I was on the top of the DPS meter. Because I realized that whenever the next patch comes out, I won't be able to play this class in this way anymore. Because I knew it would never get better than this. Straight up. I was like, bro, this is so fucking fun. This is so good. And by the way, didn't Blizzard offer to do an update to StarCraft Brood War? But the Koreans were like, no. Do not fix it. Don't fix it. Don't fix it. Please do not fix it. Whatever you do, don't. Just let it go. Let it go. We're going to figure it out. Yes, exactly. Thank God. Yeah. So keep that in mind. That's what he's trying to say. I think that's what he's trying to say.
Our time has come.
That is an extremely difficult balancing act. A dance with many delicate steps. One in which a single mistake could send the dancer flying, landing right on their face. And that allegory took the extent of my dancing knowledge. You're welcome. Like, take Anthem. It's another example of a game where BioWare just didn't understand how to make a live service game. Flat out. It was a loot game where nobody was allowed to mention Destiny 2 during development. BioWare was so desperate to avoid comparisons to other games.
How's that anybody else's fault except for their own? That's stupid. That's fucking stupid. Like, that's so stupid. Like, I guarantee you, like, whenever, for example, let me think, World of Warcraft was being made, they're talking about EverQuest all the time. Like, whenever they were making Dark Souls, they were probably, whenever PoE was being made, they were talking about Diablo 3 all the time. What?
Consider it. All power to jump drive.
But instead of doing something unique, it just meant that the game fell in the same pitfalls that other developers had run into and learned to avoid years ago. Basic game design.
I bet whenever they're making Diablo 4, the new loot season, they're talking about Last Epoch all the time. They're saying, like, let's put this from Last Epoch in the game. Let's put that from Last Epoch into the game. Right? That's what they're doing.
The Unity has fallen silent on one of our planets.
Yoshi P talks about WoW all the time. Yeah, exactly.
Old-style AAA multiplayer game sensibility.
But you see, like, my point, though, right? Where it's like everybody wants to blame live service. Whenever the problem, whenever you actually get down to, like, the way that this was managed, the studio is fucking up.
Unleash our wrath.
They said, oh, yeah, so we're going to go roller skating, but you could only use one leg, and you have to have a bowling ball in a backpack. And they're like, man, we keep falling over. Man, bro, we shouldn't have gone roller skating. I said, no, bitch, you should have used both legs. What are you doing? That sounds dumb. It is. That's the problem. It's a management problem. It is. It's a management problem. Absolutely. And it might not be a management problem, but it's their responsibility. Management, like, whenever you're in management, you're in leadership, there are, like...
Is the Unity with us?
It's great because you get to take credit for successes.
The completion of this item makes
People are
us
like, damn,
stronger.
you really did this. Like,
The
well, you
anima
really
are
didn't do this.
restless.
But here's the difference. Whenever it doesn't go well, people say, damn, you really did this. Maybe you didn't actually. It's not really your fault, but it's still your responsibility. That's it.
We'll consider it. Harmony research
Tend to fly in the face of the realities of live service games. Anthem, The Avengers, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, all of these games are built like single-player games with a level of fidelity, which is fine for a single campaign with a beginning, middle, and end, but it's kind of a problem when the developers are expected to continue the story forever. Either these
You look at this shit right here. Like, I'm sorry, like, I might just bring up another point. This looks like garbage. Like, nobody told them it had to look like this. They did this themselves. You did this to yourself. You decided you wanted to eat a dick. Don't go and blame Microsoft. Don't blame somebody else. It's you. You wanted to be the dick. Underway. Nobody else's fault.
Unleash our
forever. Either these games end up feeling hollow and incomplete from the start, with developers cutting content from the main game and slowly sprinkling it out in content updates, or the live service aspect just barely exists, with the game going months on end without updates. Either direction can kill a community. And another thing that a lot of these developers failed to take into account was the community aspect. For a live service game to thrive, it needs an active and engaged community.
It does.
According to whoever you talk to, whales are responsible for 60 to 70% of the revenue in every
my
game.
understanding.
But without the community, without the people there, the whales have nothing to do. It's something.
He's right. The whales need plankton to eat.
Your presence is strong.
Yeah, you need to have the plankton, and there's more plankton than whales in the ocean.
That executives just flat out don't understand. They think, oh, well, it's like just
yours.
cater to the whales. Give them exactly what they want and screw everyone else. It
that's not how
leads
you
to
do it.
decisions that can be very political or pandery, and a game never builds a community because no one
Lost Ark is doing this, by the way. Like, Lost Ark did this. Like, they are, in my opinion, the worst offender of this. From, like, games that I'm familiar with. Pandering to whales. Lost Ark should be the best ARPG out there. Lost Ark, in my opinion,
Control group created.
Vaulton clears any
We'll
fight in
consider
PoE
it.
and anything in Diablo 4. And it's
place
not
a
even
bid.
close, by the way. It should be the premier ARPG MMO by a mile.
anything to do with it, except for a very specific type of person who might be willing to give money based on the appeasement of their sensibilities. That's a highly specific example of the community problem that these developers have, but it goes out to be much more broad. Think about the other pie, the player, their time and their money. Finding a player who loves a game long enough to play it endlessly is one thing. Convincing them to play a few at once, that's tough. We all have
this is the ecosystem I was talking about.
obligations in life. Jobs, school, family, hygiene, physical and mental health, cheeses from various countries. There's a lot of different cheeses.
Good point.
I've probably had 9 of them. There is a lot to experience.
I've probably
in life,
had that many
and
too.
Some of it you have to do, some of it is optional, but it all takes time. You can't exactly mainline Destiny or World of Warcraft and Warframe and Fortnite.
They need to do that thing where they had in, that show Dragon Ball Z, the hyperbolic time chamber, where like Trunks and Gohan would like go in there and train a lot, and then it'd be like 3 hours, but it'd be like 2 minutes inside of it. Like they need to make one of those in real life, because like I'm getting into that situation, right? where it's like I'm like, oh fuck, like I don't have enough time to play this game all the time, and I also want to play this other game all the time. Like I need 50 hours a day, but I only have like 24.
Diablo's new season and be a productive member of society all at once. Like, it's not going to happen. I'm sure some of you are going to say that you
like,
can't,
I haven't played this.
but you can't. You can't.
You can't.
Don't try to do that. It will probably kill you. Like, we talk about crunch in game development, but what about on the consumer end? They're asking us to do crunch, except for they want us to pay them. The reality of life is that adding another live service to your plate is a tough sell, especially if that game releases as a mess or doesn't have like a good content roadmap, or you know, any of the
guys that made Once Human made a live service game that plays well and it works, and they probably had a fraction of the resources that the people that made Redfall or Anthem had. Where's the problem? The problem is with the developers and the leadership. The finals is great. It is. I watched Shroud play it a lot.
The live service problems we've talked about.
Human looks bad. That's subjective.
Like in Redfall, you can see
I thought it was great.
a kind of glimmer of the old Arcane in some of the world design. Or in Suicide Squad, there's hints of the Rocksteady we all know and love in certain set pieces. But with these games, their unique vision was sacrificed.
It's just like, I mean, am I crazy? Like, I look at this like, what the fuck is this? This looks terrible.
Sacrifice to chase a trend. When you try to please everyone, you can end up pleasing no one.
That's
in fact, it's much
that's
more
a fucking fact. He's right about that. Absolutely. And I think that's the real problem. They make these games and they spend so much on the game that they have to hit a target audience that's so wide that they need to water down the game to where the original people that the game was made for don't want it anymore. That's what fucking happened. And WoW did this with Wrath of the Lich King.
Likely than pleasing everyone. And it didn't have to be this way. Again, there are good live service games.
There's
even
a lot of them.
Solid single player components, like take GTA Online. GTA 5 is still
Yep.
there. It's playable, and the modes are completely separate and don't interfere with each other.